Deirdre is one of the most tragic and compelling figures in Irish mythology, her story unfolding within the ancient texts and oral traditions that tell the tales of the legendary heroes and warriors of Ireland. Often referred to as the most beautiful woman of the world, her life and death have become symbolic of the themes of love, fate, and the consequences of powerful emotions that transcend control. The story of Deirdre, most famously told in the Táin Bó Cúailnge, Cattle Raid of Cooley, and the Cattle Raid of Derry traditions, intertwines romance, betrayal, and the inevitability of tragic destiny. Deirdre's tale begins with her birth. According to the myth, she was prophesied to be born with great beauty, so much so that the druid Cathbad, upon hearing the prophecy, foretold that her beauty would bring disaster to the kingdom. Fearing the implications of this prophecy, King Conchobar, the ruler of Ulster, sought to control Deirdre's future by seizing her for himself. He attempted to raise her as his own, isolating her in the castle, where she was guarded closely and kept away from other men. However, the prophecy also foretold that she would fall in love with a man who was not the king, an inevitability that would set her on a tragic course. As Deirdre grew, she became known not only for her unparalleled beauty, but for her intelligence and wit as well. It was during her time of confinement that Deirdre met Nawaz, a handsome and brave warrior of the Red Branch Knights, who was the object of her affections. Nawaz, in turn, fell deeply in love with her, and they quickly became entangled in a passionate, forbidden romance. Deirdre's love for Nawaz ultimately led to her decision to flee with him, abandoning the palace and the kingdom to escape the grasp of King Conchobar, who was enraged by the betrayal. Deirdre's flight with Nawaz and his brothers, along with their eventual exile in Scotland, is one of the most romantic aspects of her story. Her relationship with Nawaz represents the idea of love as both a force of liberation and a force that challenges the established order. While their love for one another was deep and intense, it also marked the beginning of a series of devastating consequences. Nawaz's defiance of King Conchobar was viewed as an insult to the king's authority, and Deirdre's act of running away with him was seen as a betrayal of her duty and the expectations placed on her. As the couple and Nawaz's brothers tried to build a new life in Scotland, their happiness was short-lived. King Conchobar, consumed by jealousy and rage, devised a treacherous plan to reclaim Deirdre and exact his vengeance. He lured Nawaz and his brothers back to Ireland with promises of peace, only to betray them when they arrived. Nawaz and his brothers were ambushed and killed, leaving Deirdre in despair. Her great love for Nawaz was ultimately her undoing, as her grief and heartbreak over his death led her to a tragic end. In some versions of the myth, Deirdre's sorrow was so great that she died of a broken heart, while in others, she took her own life. Her death is seen as a culmination of the unavoidable tragedy that had been foretold in the prophecy at her birth. Deirdre's story is often interpreted as a meditation on the power of love, fate, and the consequences of defying societal expectations. Her beauty and passion led her down a path that ultimately led to destruction, not only for herself but for those she loved. Deirdre's myth has resonated through centuries, often seen as a symbol of the tragic potential of forbidden love and the consequences of acting against the established order. Her story touches on deep themes of human emotion, including love, loyalty, betrayal, and the inescapable pull of fate. In many ways, she is a tragic hero, a figure whose beauty and love lead to her undoing, and her life and death continue to evoke sympathy and reflection in those who hear her story. In conclusion, Deirdre's myth is one of the most poignant and tragic tales in Irish mythology. Her beauty, her forbidden love for Nawaz, and the betrayal that led to her heartbreak reflect the powerful forces of emotion, fate, and destiny that are central to many Celtic myths. The legacy of Deirdre is one of profound loss, the inevitability of tragic love, and the reminder that sometimes the forces of destiny are beyond the control of even the most passionate hearts.